When you consider some of the mind-bending or just plain confusing movies you can find on streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon, it's not really surprising. People have different tastes, so what seems great to one person might be confusing to another. Some films are really complex or poorly made, and you might end up scratching your head and saying, "Huh?" Let's talk about some of these divisive movies you might have watched over the weekend and give ourselves credit for understanding them, or at least thinking we do. Our countdown features movies like Mr. Nobody, The Lighthouse, Cloud Atlas, and many others. We're baffled. Come along with us at Coming Soon as we reveal our choices for the top 10 movies that still leave people scratching their heads. In this list, we'll discuss films with complex storylines or events that continue to confuse viewers, even long after they were released. Bug. This unsettling psychological horror film from 2006, directed by William Friedkin, the same director as The Exorcist, is one of the very few movies in the organization's history to receive an F cinema score. It's not hard to see why this movie is strange and jarring, and it can make you feel like you're losing your mind. Starring Ashley Judd and Michael Shannon, with a script based on a play by Tracy Letts, this frenetic film is about two people slowly descending into madness while trapped in a hotel room covered in tinfoil wallpaper. It proved to be too chaotic and absurd for audiences looking for something more substantial than two characters caught in their own crazy delusions. However, if you know what you're getting into, you might find it quite intriguing. Pi psychological thrillers often have complex plots, but even in that category, Pi stands out as especially hard to grasp. This movie marks the directorial debut of Darren Aronofsky and follows Max, a number theorist who becomes obsessed with a seemingly divine number, leading him on a perplexing journey. Max battles with paranoia and hallucinations, blurring the line between what's real and what's in his mind, including the movie's unclear ending. With its exploration of religious and existential themes along with all the math stuff, Pi ends up being a film that most viewers find too challenging to fully understand. Prometheus. We often discuss the puzzling problems with this movie, and there are good reasons for that. It has one of the most unclear shooting scripts of any recent blockbuster. Positioned as a sort of prequel in the Alien film series, Prometheus left audiences baffled with its casting choices, characters' motivations, and even its ending. It didn't have to be this confusing, but the whole movie feels like it's almost there, almost making sense. It drops hints about the plot and story without the necessary elements to make the audience care. We've seen many viewers literally give up on it by the end, unable to connect with what's happening. It's so strange and ultimately unsatisfying that it's no wonder the franchise tried to distance itself from it, opting for Alien Covenant instead of a direct Prometheus sequel. Maybe they'll get it right this time. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Wow, this movie isn't puzzling because it's too clever for the audience. It just doesn't add up. From Wonder Woman's reasons to the basic plot structure, who does what and why, Batman vs. Superman is a movie that barely holds together, relying heavily on impressive visuals and action. The much criticized Martha moment wasn't just odd. It failed to convincingly explain why Bruce Wayne would suddenly change his mind about a mission he had been obsessively pursuing. He had been justifying killing Superman by citing the 1% doctrine in between his CrossFit sessions. If it was absolutely certain that Superman was a global threat, why did learning that he had a mom named Martha lead Batman to call himself Superman's friend in the very next scenes? Adding to the confusion are the movie's strange dream sequences and appearances by a time-traveling Flash, a character we never actually get to know. All of this makes the movie feel fundamentally illogical, incomplete, and frustrating, especially if you're a fan of the characters and want to care about the story. Arrival. This 2016 movie takes a unique approach to the typical alien invasion story. It's all about the struggle to communicate with an alien race, despite a very tough language barrier. The film moves at a slower pace, with a lot of focus on Amy Adams' character, a skilled linguist, as she tries to make progress with the extraterrestrial visitors. In the midst of this, we see glimpses of her caring for a daughter who will tragically die young. You might think these glimpses are flashbacks, but it turns out we're seeing a future tragedy. In the movie's climax, we discover, along with Adam's character, that the aliens can see into the future because they're not bound by time's rules. This twist left some viewers feeling like it added an extra layer of complexity to a story that already had its own set of rules. The Butterfly Effect Ashton Kutcher, known for his serious roles, stars in The Butterfly Effect, a movie that's both incredibly dumb yet strangely watchable despite being completely illogical. The plot falls apart with just a bit of thought. Kutcher's character has the strange ability to go back in time to pivotal moments in his life using old personal items, but his attempts to fix his mistakes usually make things worse. The movie's core idea that tiny changes can radically alter your life is constantly ignored by the script when it suits the story. For example, in one scene, Kutcher tries to protect himself in a violent prison by going back in time to wound his hands and mimic stigmata, scaring other inmates. But if changing the past changes everything, why is Kutcher still in prison in the present? Why do his wounds magically appear instead of being scarred over from years of having them? Trying to make sense of this movie's logic isn't worth it, unlike the much better Primer. So if you find this one confusing, don't worry, you're not alone. It's just plain broken. Primer time travel is a real brain bender. We've got theories, but they're tough to grasp. Primer tells the story of two friends who create time travel and the mess it causes when they meddle with the past. As you'd expect with time travel, things get pretty weird, with different versions of the characters meeting themselves and going down different timelines. The technical talk can be hard to follow, especially if you're not into engineering. Director Shane Carruth's other movie, Upstream Color, is strange too, but Primer is the one you'll keep coming back to, trying to make sense of it all. The prestige Christopher Nolan's movie about rival magicians is like a cinematic magic trick. It's a mystery where all the clues are right in front of you. Looking back, it's clear that Christian Bale plays two different characters in the film, but as the movie suggests, it works as a twist because you want to be fooled. However, there's one part of the movie that still confuses viewers: the ending. In the movie, Hugh Jackman's character Angier uses Tesla's technology to outdo his rival, Borden. He creates clones of himself night after night, with one clone ending up in a water tank to drown, while the other teleports elsewhere in the theater to applause. But who is the real Angier? Tesla explains that all the clones are Angier, exact copies with the same memories, motivations, and fear of death. The ending shows how far Angier is willing to go for his magic. He reveals a gruesome secret, a hidden room filled with his own dead, duplicated bodies. They're like skeletons in his closet, showing the dark side of his obsession. Again and again, he dies for applause, always leaving one living version of himself. A copy of a copy haunted by the knowledge that his turn to suffer is coming. Predestination. Predestination is a very good sci-fi film that I enjoyed a lot, but I should warn you, it's quite strange and a bit confusing. However, this doesn't mean it's bad. It's filled with clever twists and turns, making it worth your time. The movie's plot is based on a science fiction short story by Robert A. Heinlein called All You Zombies. It deals with a paradoxical situation where trying to change the past leads to repeating the same actions over and over. The movie's temporal agent explains that he, along with John, Jane, and the child, are all the same person caught in a predestined time loop. I highly recommend Predestination for everyone to watch. Films like this don't come around often, so don't miss it. The movie uses its surprising elements in the latter half to create the illusion of an intelligent, mind-bending thriller. Before we reveal our top choice, let's acknowledge some other great movies: A Space Odyssey, Mulholland Drive, Trance, Eraserhead, American Psycho. Mr. Nobody movies with multiple timelines can be confusing, and in Mr. Nobody, it's a real puzzle to keep track of them. The film follows Nemo Nobody, the last human, as he shares different versions of his life story on his deathbed. It's hard to tell what's real and what's made up. If you can grasp it, the movie explores the importance of choices and regrets, but be prepared for multiple viewings because it's a head-scratcher that's tough to understand on the first go. In the story, a boy stands on a train platform faced with a choice: go with his mother or stay with his father. This decision leads to endless possibilities. As long as he doesn't make a choice, anything can happen. If there's a puzzling movie that you think should be on our list but isn't, please share it in the comments. And as always, if you want to be the first to know about all the exciting content in store, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube.